Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing the book addiction tag. I was very kindly tagged by Leanne Rose, and I thought this was a really fun tag with some really interesting questions. So I've got my notes. Let's do it. Question 1. What is the longest amount of time you can comfortably go without picking up a book? Like 3 hours. I read a lot through the day on my lunch break. I read in the mornings, like before I get up and go to work. I read on my lunch break, and I read in the evenings after work. So yeah, preferably I would have a book in my hands at all times, but unfortunately things like work, parenting and running a house get in the way, like life stuff. So yeah, not very long. Question 2, how many books do you carry on your person at any one time? So at the time of filming this, we are still dealing with lockdown, which means I'm at home with my books all the time. Yay, silver lining for everything that's going on. In quote-unquote normal life, I would have one book in my bag at all times, which I would be reading like during work break and all that kind of stuff, and on my commute. I will also always have one audiobook on the go for when I'm driving or walking anywhere. So yeah, usually one in my bag, and I will just read that book and then replace it with another one. I don't tend to carry multiple books at one time. So yeah, usually just the one. But at the moment, I am at home with my book babies all the time. Question 3, do you keep every book you buy or receive, or are you happy to pass them on to make space for more? I only keep books I've given 4 or 5 stars or that I'm planning on rereading. So all of the books that are behind me, with the exception of some of the outwards because I'm collecting the outwards, but like all of these I've given 4 or 5 stars or I'm planning on rereading. However, I'm very happy to lend my books out to people. I always keep my mother-in-law supplied with books. My friend Amy and I trade books quite a bit when we see each other. I'm always happy to lend books out to people once I've read it, because once I've read it, I'm not the kind of person who will reread immediately, usually. And also I'm not precious about my books. I'm quite happy to lend them out to other people. Although I will regularly have clear outs, and as you guys will have seen, I will occasionally post unhauls. Because if I didn't love a book, I'm not going to keep it. So like once I've read a book, I will either chuck it straight in the unhaul pile if it was like not good and like none of my friends and family are interested in reading it, or it will go into a pile for either my mother-in-law or one of my friends, or it will come straight down to go onto my bookcase if it's the kind of thing like that my friends and family don't read. So yeah, kind of a mix of both. I keep the ones I love, I get rid of the ones that I'm not bothered about, and I also lend out books quite happily. Question 4, how long would you spend in a bookshop on a standard visit? Oh my gosh. So I'm filming this at the start of June, and we've been in lockdown since March. So I haven't been in a bookshop for what, March, April, May, June. We're in like the 4th month. Now I have been book shopping in that time online, but I really miss going into an actual bookshop, because there is nothing like going into a bookshop in real life. It's just the smell and all the books, and all the other people in there are bookish, and like chatting to the people that work in there is like one of my favourite things. Oh boy, I miss bookshops a lot. In normal life, I would probably go into bookshops probably 3 days a week. Maybe 4, let's be honest, like maybe 4 lunch breaks out of 5 I would at least pop into the bookshop, like not necessarily to buy books, but just to have a look and just to be in there. So on a lunch break, you know, realistically I've got like 40 minutes. If I wasn't in a rush and wasn't with anyone, I could happily spend a couple of hours in a bookshop browsing and buying books, and oh, I really miss it. Okay, question 5, how much time per day do you actually spend reading? Well, I've sort of already like answered this with my first question. So I read a lot. Okay, let's do this for how life is right now, so in lockdown. So I will read for about 20 minutes in the morning before I log on and start working, and then lunch breaks have been pretty much non-existent during lockdown because it's been kind of a lot. So I have been missing out on that. But then in the evenings, I will read all evening pretty much. Like we will have dinner, go for a walk, depending on whether my 10-year-old is here or not, we'll then like hang out and have some family time, and then he will go up for bath and bed with his dad, and I will read. And I will probably read, I'd say at least 3 hours solidly in the evening from like 7 till 10, so 7, 8, 9, oh yeah, like 4 hours, 3-4 hours, until we go to bed at 10. So yeah, quite a lot, like probably 5 hours a day maybe, and more weekends. At the weekend I spend as much time on the sofa with a book as I can wrangle. Question 6. Where does the task picking up a book appear on your daily to-do list? Right at the top, underlined, highlighted, must do this for my mental health. That is where it comes. Question 7. How many books do you think you own in total? This is quite hard, and I probably should have counted these books before I started. So I've got my bookshelf here. There's also another bookshelf to my right under our TV, and then I've got like a long row of bookshelf up there, which is where my rainbow is, and then I've also got my TBR shelf upstairs, and we've got a few more shelves in our spare room. So I probably should have counted before I made this video. I don't know, actually, a couple hundred maybe. In my defense, they've all been read except for the few books on my TBR shelf upstairs. I don't have a massive unread TBR, which is no judgment on anyone who does, but I personally get a bit stressed when my TBR starts getting bigger and bigger, so I just prefer to have a few books at a time that I'm gonna read soon. But yeah, I would guess a couple of hundred books probably. Is that a lot or not enough? Let me know in the comments what you think on that one. Right, question 8. Approximately how often do you bring up books in conversation? Well, that depends on who I'm talking to. These days, most of my friends are booktubers, so we talk about books and booktube a lot. In sort of like outside of booktube, I am known as the reader with my friends and family. So people will often ask me for book recommendations, which is really nice. I love giving book recommendations, so that's always fun. So yeah, probably quite a few of my conversations revolve around books because I am known as the reader. It's like my main hobby. And yeah, probably quite a bit. And I hope that's not boring for people, but that's just me. Question 9. What is the biggest book page count you have finished reading? So I have read Les Miserables by the person that I will put in the description because I can't remember who it's by, which is terrible. But that was years ago, and like before I was using Goodreads, and Goodreads tells me that actually the longest book that I finished that I've logged on there is one I finished recently, which was Tombland by CJ Sampson. This weighs in at 865 pages, so pretty big. Not the biggest of the big books that I see people talk about here on Booktube, but I adored this. I gave this 5 stars and thought it was fabulous. It's currently the last in the Matthew Shardlake series, and hopefully we've got more coming, because I absolutely adore the series. Yeah, so that is my biggest book according to Goodreads, but I have read Les Mis, which I think is over 1,000 pages and is a big beastie, but I don't typically read huge books, and that's not really a deliberate choice. Like, I don't shy away from them, but I also, because I don't read fantasy, and a lot of the bigger, like the big fat books are fantasy books, so I don't typically come across them in the books that I read. Like thrillers, you'll never find like 1,000-page thriller, for example. So yeah, it's not a deliberate choice, but that's my biggest book. Question 10. Is there a book you had to get your hands on against all odds? Yes, there was, and there's a whole vlog for this which showed my stress at trying to get hold of this book and then read it. So I'm a massive Atwood fan, could you tell? And The Handmaid's Tale is my favourite book of hers, could you tell? And so when I heard that there was a sequel coming, I was so excited and also terrified. And so when this book came out, I very, very rarely pre-order books, so I pre-ordered this, and then it didn't come until like 10 at night. Spoiler for that video I just mentioned. But this was one, like, I almost got in my car and drove to Tesco's at like 9 at night just to get my hands on a copy. And I did like it, and you've seen that video that I loved it at the time, but it's one of those that since I've thought about it, and it's not one of my favourites of hers, which is kind of a bit disappointing, but it's also one that I'll be rereading at some point as part of my book club, so we'll see what I think then. But yeah, this was one of those books that I had to get my hands on. Question 11, a book you struggled to finish but refused to DNF. I DNF. I can't think of any that I struggled to the end of. I think if you're not enjoying a book, put it down. There's millions of others. There's so many other stories to devour. There's so many authors to read. Like, I haven't got time for books that I'm not enjoying, so I am a big fan of the DNF, did not finish. And then question 12, what are 3 of your main book goals for the year? So I've talked about this in previous videos. I don't really set goals for the year, I set intentions because it feels more positive and like less stressful. So 3 of my intentions for this year were to reach 150 books finished. At the time of filming this, I think I've just finished book 71, so I'm well on track for that. It was also to read 1 classic a month, which I've been doing and thoroughly enjoying. And if you want to recommend me some more classics in the comments, please do. And then I can't think of a 3rd one particularly. I've got so much else going on in my outside life that for me, like, just enjoying what I'm reading was more important this year rather than setting loads of like goals / intentions. So I think they were the main 2. Yeah, so that's my answer for that. So those are all the questions. I'm going to tag 3 people who I would like to see do this because I'd be really interested in their answers. So I'm going to firstly tag Olivia from Olivia's Catastrophe. I'm also going to tag Simone from Me, Simone and I, and I'm going to tag Shannon from 155 Books. Ladies, you are tagged. I will also do this as an open tag, so if you think this was interesting and you want to do it, you can say I tagged you, consider yourself tagged. Drop me a comment below with your longest book, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks guys, bye!